What if 2026 isn't just another year, but a script already written? For decades, The Simpsons has pulled off the impossible, turning absurd cartoon jokes into real-world headlines. They joked about Donald Trump becoming president. Years before it happened, they hinted at smartwatches, virus outbreaks, even wild scandals that somehow became reality. It's funny, until it's not. Because now, as 2026 creeps closer, the predictions are taking a darker turn. We're not just talking about tech or politics anymore. These are global disasters, economic meltdowns, full-blown chaos, the kind of things you laugh off until they happen. So the question is, what did The Simpsons already see coming? And what if we're living it next? Let's start with the first prediction. And trust me, it only gets worse from here. In one Simpsons episode, Springfield turns into a dystopian wasteland after a massive tech giant collapses, dragging the entire economy down with it. At the time, it was just another joke. But in 2026, it's starting to look more like a preview. Tech titans like Meta, Google, and Amazon dominate nearly every corner of the digital world. But behind the glossy PR and innovation hype, the cracks are showing. Meta's drowning in controversy. Google's facing lawsuits and antitrust investigations. Even Amazon, the e-commerce king, is under pressure, with workers striking, regulators circling, and profits thinning. Then there's the growing public distrust. People are fed up with privacy invasions, biased algorithms, and tech monopolies. Governments around the world are slapping on tighter regulations, especially around AI and data use. One major shift or one major mistake could topple the whole house of cards. And let's not forget the economic dependency. These companies are so massive that if just one collapses, the shockwaves could be global. Stock markets diving, currencies shaken, jobs wiped out overnight. We've already seen what happened with the crypto crash and Silicon Valley Bank. That was just a tremor. So when The Simpsons showed a tech company dragging society into the dirt, maybe they weren't exaggerating. Maybe 2026 is the year one digital domino finally falls and takes the rest with it. But if the internet goes dark, something even more powerful might take its place. There's an old Simpsons episode where Springfield gets taken over by artificial intelligence. At the time, it was pure science fiction, a cartoon fantasy of robots replacing people and running the show. Fast forward to now, it's not so far-fetched. AI is already everywhere. It's writing essays, generating art, answering questions, even running parts of major businesses. We've got machines learning faster than we can keep up, and barely any rules to stop them. Governments are behind, regulators are confused. Meanwhile, the technology just keeps accelerating. But here's where it gets eerie. Some of the world's top scientists are warning that if we don't slow down, AI could begin making decisions for us. Not just in factories or search engines, but in healthcare, finance, law enforcement, even war. There are already countries testing AI-powered weapons. Others are using predictive policing software that reinforces bias. And deepfakes. They're making it nearly impossible to tell what's real and what's fabricated. Now imagine it's 2026. AI is smarter, faster, and completely woven into the systems that run our lives. What happens when a machine decides your loan, your sentence, your diagnosis? What happens when AI starts influencing elections or manipulating economies behind the scenes? The Simpsons might have laughed about robot overlords, but we might be one algorithm update away from watching that prediction unfold in real time. And if AI starts running the world, what happens when we can't even grow real food anymore? In one bizarre Simpsons episode, the characters are stuck eating gray, flavorless food, synthetic meals made in a lab because the Earth can't grow anything anymore. Sounds like a joke, right? But by 2026, it might not be so funny. Climate change is already attacking the world's food supply. Droughts, floods, wildfires, crops are being wiped out faster than we can replace them. Add in overpopulation and broken supply chains, and we've got a recipe for scarcity. Real scarcity. That's why scientists and billion-dollar startups are pouring money into alternatives. Lab-grown meat, 3D printed meals, artificial proteins. Companies like Beyond Meat and Upside Foods are already pushing synthetic options into grocery stores and restaurant chains. Some say it's the future. Others say it's the end of real food. Because let's be honest, no matter how clean or sustainable it is, lab meat isn't steak. Plant-based burgers aren't the same as a grilled patty from the backyard. And when fresh vegetables become luxury items, what happens to the rest of us? By 2026, synthetic food might not be an option, it might be a necessity. And if that happens, we'll be living in a future where farms fade, flavor disappears, and food becomes just another tech product. The Simpsons made it a punchline, but the truth, it might just leave a bad taste in all of our mouths. And when people go hungry, history shows what usually follows. Springfield once spiraled into chaos after a cartoon stock market crash. But now, with the way things are heading, The Simpsons might have just predicted the next economic disaster. And 2026 could be the breaking point. Inflation is still rising. National debts are reaching record highs. And even though some governments pretend things are fine, economists are sounding the alarms, comparing today's financial climate to the moments right before the 2008 collapse. Tech layoffs keep piling up, housing prices are unstable, small businesses are crumbling under pressure, and the cost of living, squeezing people tighter every month. One bad move from a major economy, China, the US, the EU, and we could see the whole system unravel. And here's the thing, this time we're more connected than ever. A crash in one country won't stay in one country. Stock markets are global. Supply chains are global. Panic spreads in seconds. If a domino falls in 2026, it won't just be about money, it'll be about trust. When banks freeze, when jobs vanish, when savings evaporate overnight, what happens to society? The Simpsons played it for laughs. But the reality? There's nothing funny about an empty wallet and a collapsing system. And just when you think it can't get worse, the weather decides to break the rules too. The Simpsons once showed Springfield battered by hurricanes, buried in snow, and scorched by record heat. It was over the top, ridiculous, fiction. But fast forward to now, and those scenes don't feel so far off. In just the last few years, we've seen more than 1,300 weather-related disasters worldwide. Wildfires torching entire towns, floods swallowing cities, heat waves turning Europe, North America, and Asia into ovens. And the trend, it's not slowing down. The summer of 2023 was one of the hottest ever recorded. Crops failed, power grids collapsed, people died, and scientists are warning, this is just the beginning. Rising sea levels, superstorms, unstoppable droughts. These aren't anomalies anymore. They're becoming the new normal. So what happens in 2026 if things keep accelerating? Imagine coastlines disappearing, cities baking in record heat, weather so extreme it shuts down entire regions. Insurance companies already don't want to cover homes in high-risk areas. What happens when the high-risk area becomes everywhere? The Simpsons might have laughed at climate chaos, but as glaciers melt and skies burn, their cartoon warnings feel more like headlines waiting to happen. And while the planet falls apart, the world's richest are aiming for the stars. In one wild Simpsons episode, the townspeople line up for a commercial space trip, only for it to end in chaos and disaster. At the time, it seemed ridiculous. Who would casually book a flight to space? Well, welcome to reality. As of now, space tourism is no longer science fiction. Billionaires are racing to make it mainstream. SpaceX, Blue Origin, and Virgin Galactic have already launched civilians into orbit. Some just for fun, others for flex. And in 2026, these missions are only expected to increase. But here's what no one's talking about. What happens when something goes wrong? These aren't NASA-level missions. They're private, experimental, sometimes rushed. And space isn't forgiving. One miscalculation, one overlooked system error, and it's not just a failed flight, it's a front-page tragedy. Even beyond the physical risks, there's the environmental cost. Every launch pumps carbon and pollutants into the atmosphere. Multiply that by dozens or hundreds of future flights, and space tourism could end up hurting the very planet we're trying to escape. So could 2026 be the year a disaster forces the space race to slam on the brakes? Maybe the Simpsons didn't just predict space tourism, maybe they warned us what happens when we treat the cosmos like a theme park. But while the elite launch themselves into orbit, the real chaos is brewing right here at home. In The Simpsons, America has been torn apart by everything from rogue leaders to rigged elections. Back then, it was satire, but now, it's uncomfortably close to reality. The 2020 election already pushed the system to its breaking point, with accusations, riots, and a Capitol under siege. Since then, the political divide has only deepened. Extremist voices are louder, misinformation spreads faster, and trust in democracy, it's falling apart. Heading into 2026, the political forecast looks stormy. The 2024 election aftermath still lingers, and many Americans believe the system is rigged no matter who wins. Voter suppression claims, legal challenges, and threats of violence have turned elections from a civic event into a national crisis. And what happens when that distrust boils over? We're not just talking about angry tweets. We're talking about real instability, protests, government shutdowns, and even the whispers of authoritarian shifts. If The Simpsons were right, 2026 might be the year we see something we never thought possible, a democracy pushed too far. This isn't about left versus right anymore, it's about whether the foundation can hold. And if you think that's dark, the next prediction messes with something even stranger: time itself. In one of The Simpsons' wildest episodes, Homer messes with time and accidentally creates chaotic alternate realities. It was absurd, hilarious, and apparently ahead of its time, because today, real-world scientists are actually talking about time travel, not in a movie theory kind of way, in quantum labs and peer-reviewed papers. With breakthroughs in quantum computing, particle physics, and theories like wormholes and entanglement, some physicists believe time manipulation might not be just fiction. We're still far from hopping in a DeLorean, but we're inching toward understanding how space-time could be bent and possibly controlled. But here's where it gets dangerous. If time travel ever becomes possible, even in theory, the risks are enormous. Imagine someone altering past events, even slightly. A political win becomes a loss. A war starts early. A cure never happens. One tweak could change everything, and not for the better. Then there's the ethical side. Who decides what parts of history are fixable? What if time becomes a weapon instead of a wonder? 2026 might not be the year of time machines, but it could be the year humanity crosses a new frontier in understanding time itself. And that's a door we might not want to open. The Simpsons might have been warning us with a laugh that tampering with time has consequences. But while we worry about bending time, something much closer, much deadlier, might already be ticking toward us. In one of The Simpsons' darkest storylines, the world spirals into a massive international conflict. Chaos, destruction, and global fallout. It was exaggerated, sure, but look at the real world now. And it doesn't seem so far off. Tensions between global powers are heating up fast. The ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict has already dragged in NATO interests. The South China Sea is a pressure cooker, and the relationship between the US and China, shaky at best, hostile at worst. These aren't isolated problems, they're threads in a tightly woven web. And if one snaps, the others might go with it. Military buildups are rising. Countries are testing hypersonic missiles, deploying drones, boosting defense budgets. And with economic sanctions, cyber attacks, and shifting alliances, the stage is set for something much bigger than a border skirmish. And then there's the unspoken threat, the one everyone hopes stays buried, the nuclear option, still present, still active, still in the hands of people we hope never pressed the wrong button. By 2026, one misstep, one escalation could trigger a conflict the world isn't ready for, not because The Simpsons said so, but because history has a habit of repeating itself when no one's paying attention. Their cartoon warning might have been over the top. But what if it wasn't? Because if there's one thing this show has taught us, it's that the line between comedy and reality is thinner than we think. So, were these just jokes, coincidences, or subtle warnings wrapped in animation? The Simpsons might have played it for laughs, but looking at the world right now, it feels more like a mirror. From tech crashes to climate disasters, from synthetic food to global tension, 2026 could be the year fiction starts to look a little too familiar. Let's just hope not all of their predictions come true.